There's a church near me that really swings the pendulum on divorce and remarriage issue. They force anyone divorced to make a last attempt restoration with their ex before the church will bless or sanctify their new relationship or marriage. They've been known to force a public apology of any sins in the previous marriage in front of the congregation before church membership or remarriage. I sure don't see any public apologies for obesity, porn addiction, tax fraud, jealousy, lying, gossip, name your sin. But let's be sure to publicly humiliate anyone divorced with their issues on stage. And for those who can't see me right now, insert my eye roll here. I know a man who was on a church staff. His ex-wife told the elders that she wanted to restore their marriage. They forced him to consider and to take a sabbatical. He did reluctantly, and he said the same thing. Hell no, I'm not going back. It's not the elder's job to mandate that. Once again, it's a push for the truth over mercy. Yes, marriage is important, but where's the mercy? Never mind the pain and the anguish the woman had put my friend through with all her affairs and her lying, but to force him to consider restoration, that's not their business. He's divorced. He's moved on. He is now single. And it's not their job to push him where they think truth would push him. Yes, there's a very real stigma in our churches, and it makes many of us not want to walk in the doors. We just don't always feel welcome. And certainly, often we don't feel ministered to. In some cases, we feel singled out, pun intended. Okay, let's dive a little deeper into the realities of ministering to single people, especially from the pulpit. Well, how does this issue relate to divorce and divorce care? Well, most of us listening have a male married pastor who has never been through a divorce. His Christianese sermons are limited in scope and in knowledge. Asking for relevant information about our divorce journey would be like asking a 30-year-old female who has never given birth to give pregnancy and child rearing advice. It's impossible. They've never done it. So what happens? The 40-minute sermon at best is here's what the Bible says about marriage, and here's what the Bible says about divorce. And some pie in the sky message about the truth part. God values marriage, but almost silent on the mercy part. Here is how to love someone in the turmoil of a broken marriage with shattered families. Here is how we can help your family navigate the landmines of divorce. It is this gap in ministering and speaking to divorcees. It's why I started this podcast. In my description, I literally say, let me read the UnYoked podcast, the pain, process, and possibilities of a Christian divorce. Divorce and the new single life is hard, but it's even more complex when you made a promise to God to keep your marriage till death do you part. But American Christian culture doesn't make navigating decisions and the ripple effects of divorce any easier. Christian marriage and divorce advice runs rampant, yet often conflicts with the realities of pain, abuse, and loneliness in the real world. God has a lot more to say than I hate divorce. God gives a standard that he graciously restores and renews people, even when his standard isn't met. Those of us who are navigating the life-changing event of unyoking from a spouse and or uprooting a family have to journey through some dark, lonely, and confusing places. Our issues aren't frequently tackled from the pulpit, and the advice we receive always isn't relevant to our current place. The UnYoked podcast is just the place for that person, a safe place to wonder, ponder, relate, and consider your next steps of navigating a divorce, singleness, and the future. A place where we live in the tension between God's plan and the realities of living in a broken world with broken people and broken relationships. Let's get real about discussing the ripple effects of divorce and equipping ourselves to survive being unyoked as a Christian. Our churches have a giant hole in divorce care, and I felt the need to try to fill the gap, even in some sort of small way. If you like this content, then subscribe for even more resources, fun, laughter, and sound advice for Christians adventuring in unyoked living. not just divorce recovery, but for brave men and women who are growing and going and living a life on mission. Blessings.